Round 5 of ABB Formula E Season 6 took us to Marrakesh, Morocco. So far in Season 6, we had 4 different winners from all 4 races. Would the streak continue this weekend with Antonio Felix da Costa on pole? Here are your race highlights, and afterwards we'll do a little bit of a race reaction and race rundown.
Green in Marrakesh, really good start from da Costa. Nick de Vries has got away quite well. Max Guenther drops back, but da Costa gets a great start. Mortara goes up the inside of de Vries, and Jean-Eric Vergne is up into 5th place now, having started in 11th on the grid. That DS Techeetah, Mortara might just about hold on around the outside. No, Vergne's through. So Vergne up into 4th place. This is quite the drive.
Is he going to go for the outside? He
didn't. Great move from Guenther. Here's da Costa having a look to the outside of Guenther, and Guenther drops behind da Costa.
Here comes Jean-Eric Vergne past the Porsche of Andre Lotterer. As we see Jev passing Max Guenther 1-2 at the moment for DS Techeetah. There's Vergne defending.
Oh, and Jev comes across, and that's some dodgy defending there from Vergne, isn't it? Guenther to the outside, lock up, wheel to wheel. He's going to be on the dirty stuff. Da Costa out of the final corner. He wins the race, and Guenther's into 2nd place. Max Guenther finishes in 2nd place.
Thank you to Formula E, as always, for sending over the highlights. And as you have just seen, yes, da Costa was able to hold on from that pole position to claim victory. His first of the season, his 3rd podium in a row, but more crucially, his first win for DS Techeetah, and now elevates him to the top of the standings. Quite a bit to go through today. And whilst it wasn't the most dramatic Formula E race of the season so far, there's still plenty of talking points to go through, starting with qualifying. I always like to start with qualifying because the way Formula E does it with the group system, group 1, 2, 3 and 4, usually throws up a few dramas, but in Marrakesh, thanks to the temperatures usually being so high, the advantage you get from each group isn't usually as much. So much so that our Group 1 leader, Antonio Felix da Costa, not only did he get through to Superpole, an awesome job from the Portuguese, he only went and smacked it on pole position as well, ahead of Maximilian Guenther, who locked up in the final sector of his Superpole run, but super close between the top 3. Andre Lotterer in the Porsche rounding out that top 3. Behind them was Nick de Vries getting through to Superpole again. Would he be able to have a strong race and claim his first podium in Formula E? And the final 2 drivers to get through into Superpole, Eduardo Mortara, who on the quiet has had a really strong season for Venturi, and Sebastian Buemi. Other drivers of note saw Lucas de Grassi down in P13, Robin Freins and Sam Bird in the 2 Virgin cars, P14 and 15, Stoffel van Dorn, our championship leader from a few races ago, down in P18. But the biggest surprise of all, our current championship leader going into this weekend, Mitch Evans, race winner from Mexico City, down in P24, dead last, thanks to the team mistiming his qualifying run and ultimately never set a lap. He did do a lap, it didn't count, and that lap that he set, to make matters worse, would have put him at the front of his group, in front of da Costa, and would have seen him in Superpole. A real stinger for Mitch Evans. But the race, as you saw, was a bit crazy. Nothing too extreme. Only 1 non-finisher, in actual fact. Not a single yellow flag. Not bad for Formula E in that kind of sense. But we did see an awesome battle at the front. An awesome battle in the best of the rest kind of positions behind that front fight. But we didn't see a fat lot of it, thanks to the fact da Costa and Guenther, for the whole 45-minute plus 1 lap, were just going at it. We saw da Costa ultimately come out on top. As you can see on screen, your race order, your top 12, da Costa, Guenther and Vergne, your podium finishers. But da Costa and Guenther, the back and forth between the 2 of them, the mind games with da Costa slipping behind Guenther, who Guenther, he's only in his first full season of Formula E. He did half of the year last year with Geox Dragon, but this year got the move up to BMW, a full-time drive, and already he's won this season in Santiago, and he was putting da Costa, a veteran of the sport, under so much pressure. But da Costa put that experience to fantastic use, going behind Guenther, saving energy, but keeping pace thanks to a slipstream really helped him out in the long run, and Da Costa ultimately having extra energy, and with a resurgent Jean-Eric Vergne, an awesome drive from Jev today, he put Guenther under so much pressure late on. Da Costa was able to sprint off into the distance and have the third most dominant victory of all time in Formula E. But the result really doesn't paint the picture, because Guenther was so close, and Guenther actually, in the latter stages, dropped behind Vergne, and that helped Da Costa's lead even more. But Vergne himself is a driver I really want to talk about today. Starting P11, ill, missed practice, and ultimately that qualifying lap that put him in P11 was a very impressive job, considering that was his first real laps of the weekend. So I kind of expected him to float around in that midfield, maybe go backwards, but I certainly did not expect him to not only go forwards, but have the best race of his season so far. His first podium of the season so far. What a job from Jev this weekend. His season hasn't been great, that's for sure. A real lack of points, a real lack of consistency, multiple non-finishes, and yet the weekend where he was a little bit down, not feeling great. The car looked quick, but starting P11, I didn't expect a lot. And maybe it was the pressure off him this weekend. The fact that the media didn't expect him to work his way to the front. The fact that the team let him off the hook slightly. Maybe in himself not expecting to be able to fight his way to the front. Maybe just that pressure off really helped Jev this weekend. And I hope this is really giving him that kick up the backside, that real kickstarter to the season. Of course, he's a double world champion. He's not a bad driver by any means. But I hope this really gives him that bit of confidence to really catch up Antonio now. But both Techeetah cars, an awesome weekend. Behind them, just outside the podium positions, Sebastian Buemi, Eduardo Mortara. There was kind of this midfield group that consisted of the two Nissan cars, actually. Roland ultimately finishing a little bit further down in P9. Lotterer, who was also in that group, finished down in P8. Alexander Sims ran out of energy on the final lap, who was also in that group. But all six of those drivers really giving it everything throughout the race, moving back and forward between different attack modes, fan boosts, and it was really interesting to see. And the Nissan car doesn't seem as strong as last year, but both of them scoring points today. Not a bad job. Eduardo Mortara, considering that a lot of people didn't expect him to do amazing things last year, he ultimately beat Felipe Massa. And I think a lot of people expected Massa to make a step up this year. But for sure, Mortara has been that team leader, and this year has been one of the standouts in my eyes. Yes, it's not been any flashy podiums and race victories just yet, but he's been super consistent, a little bit like Lucas Di Grassi. Di Grassi finishing 7th. Di Grassi's only had one podium this season, and he's yet tied on points for 5th place in the championship. But you kind of get that sense of feeling that they've done nothing special. But as we saw last year from Formula E, it's about that consistency, and I definitely think Mortara has been a huge help to Venturi this weekend. So 5th place, yes, he was helped with Sims and Lotterer dropping back late on, likewise with Roland, but a big result once again from Edo. But P6, Mitch Evans, that's illegal. That is ridiculous. 10 out of 10 chilies for spiciness for Mitch Evans this weekend. Last time out, Mexico City, an extremely dominant victory in that Jaguar car. A statement of intent for the championship, and ultimately came into this weekend 1 point extra than Alexander Sims in the championship. And a lot of people, after that huge qualifying mistake from Jaguar, expected Evans, yes, to work his way forward, but definitely not to P6. A huge result, not only for himself, his confidence, but also for the standings. Massive. Evans in contention for driver of the day. Perhaps I even think better than his race weekend last time out. Really had to work for it. And Marrakesh is not a circuit that ultimately lends itself to plenty of overtaking, but he got it done. He was lethal, crucial, clinical. Fair play, Mitch Evans. Other drivers of note with inside that top 10. Sam Bird squeezing a point, but I tell you what, the form that Envision Virgin had early doors seems to be slipping away. And yes, Bird was almost claiming P2 last time out. A late crash ultimately ended his race. No points there. 1 point here isn't fantastic, but as we saw last season, 1 point can make a big difference in the world of Formula E. And the final driver I just want to quickly mention inside that top 12, Nyck de Vries, a really strong drive from Nick today. And I feel it's going to kind of go under the radar because of the fact it wasn't on TV. But this is a driver who was up in those podium positions really early on. He's done that for multiple races this year, but as the races gone on, he's dropped back further into that midfield. A few mistakes have cost him points. But today, drive-through penalty, which is not ideal whatsoever. Really early on, the team decided to do it straight away. But what a comeback drive, not only to be one position off the points, and as we regularly see in Formula E, there could be penalties over the next few days, so that ultimately could lead to points if he gets away penalty-free, but also P11 in front of Stoffel van Dorn. I feel this guy, he's definitely got high potential. He's living up to that potential in Formula E. He just needs a big result now. Experience, it's going to come. He's going to learn these silly little mistakes, and you've got to do it the hard way, but I was impressed with de Vries this weekend, and for me, it's another step forward for the Formula 2 champion. Outside the top 12 in P13, Jerome D'Ambrosio, the lead Mahindra car, they're really struggling this year, and D'Ambrosio was last year's winner in Marrakesh, albeit under slightly different circumstances, but they're really struggling so far in Season 6. Daniel Apps, P14, I feel he needs a good result over the next few weekends to secure his seat for Season 7. Stoffel van Dorn, P15. James Collado did such a good job in qualifying, starting P8, but ultimately in the race slightly went backwards, and in those latter phases really struggled with energy management. Felipe Massa, P17. I said earlier, when talking about Edo Mortara, Massa has really struggled in Season 6 and I feel isn't quite living up to expectations, so keep an eye on him over the next few races. Another driver I think could be under real threat as we head into the European season, Neil Gianni, when you consider drivers like Nico Hülkenberg, a former Porsche driver, is on the market. I think Gianni's seat could be under threat. Keep your eye on that space. Brendan Hartley, P19, with his teammate Nico Muller, P20. Oliver Turvey, P21. Pascal Wehrlein with a puncher, gutted for him. He was having a really strong start to the race, down in P22. Mark Inquart in P23, who was your final finisher. And Alexander Sims with the late energy failure in P24, your only non-finisher. Drivers of the day, here are my three contenders. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. I think it's pretty straightforward this weekend. Mitch Evans, P24 to P6. Jean-Eric Vergne, P11 to P3. Being ill, no practice, mega effort. I think he's my number one this weekend, but it's so close between those two. And Antonio Felix da Costa getting the victory royale in the bag. And not only that, as we now see on the screen, takes the lead of the drivers' standings by 11 points over Mitch Evans, who is 10 points in front of Alexander Sims. So a little bit of a gap forming at the top of the table. A little bit lower down, Lucas de Grassi and Van Dorn level pegging on 38 points between them. Sorry, there's a slight mistake on screen there, but yes, both are on 38 points. Jean-Eric Vergne moves up quite a bit after that third place finish. He now sits 8th, 1 point in front of Nissan's Ollie Rowland. 4 drivers yet to score: Oliver Turvey, Nico Muller, Neil Gianni and Mark Inquart. Your team's table finally seems a change at the top. It is Techeetah, 98 points, just 2 away from a century. They are ahead of BMW and Andretti. Jaguar on 66. Only one team not to score in the teams, Neo 333. And that's it for Marrakesh. Another weekend of Formula E. It wasn't the best, but at the front, a mighty battle. Will the streak continue on the 4th of April as we head to Rome, our first race of the European leg? I hope to see you there. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.